Roanoa ZORO, the demon, pirate hunter, first mate, wing of the pirate king, big-chested himbo, and the opposite of a GPS. Whichever of these you refer to him as, we all know and love this moss-head swordsman. Over the course of the series, we've watched ZORO grow stronger and stronger, overcoming odds and enemies alike. But what drives him? Is it his dream of being the greatest swordsman the world's ever known? His promise to Kuina? Making Luffy king of the pirates? Well, what if I told you that, yes, it is all of that. But there's something underneath, something more to this beautiful man than just being a badass who wields 3 swords. And that is fear. I'm Straw Hat Lucas, helmsman of the last arc, and make sure to like, subscribe, and red rock that bell icon to get all the One Piece content we got. Ready? Let's go. Now, before we get into this, I will say I was heavily inspired to make this analysis after watching Melon Tree's video, ZORO and the Anxiety of Strength, which I will link to in the description. You should also hit the subscribe button for her as well. Now, let's start with ZORO's childhood, and before we ever get to the flashback that Oda-sensei graced us with about ZORO's dedication to learning 3 sword style and his friendship with Kuina, we know that ZORO lost his mother to an unknown illness and his father to pirates. Throughout this video, I'm going to ask you to picture situations through the eyes of ZORO, and this is the perfect place to start. Imagine that you're a child. Your mother has already passed, and then the one person you have left, your father, is taken out by pirates. Now you're alone. You don't know what to do. You don't know which way to go. Now there is some speculation here because we don't know when exactly Zoro's parents died, but let's assume his father getting killed by pirates is what led him to Koshiro's academy. He would have gone scared, but driven. Determined to become a swordsman. Then, when he gets there, he is faced with another roadblock. Kuina. Now, I won't go into a lot of detail about his relationship with Kuina, because I'm sure we all know it well, but to summarize, ZORO met Kuina, ZORO challenged Kuina, Kuina beat ZORO an ungodly amount of times, and on the night that they finally used real swords, that's when Kuina and ZORO bond deeply. They learn they share the same dream. Then it happens. Now, what I want to focus on about Kuina's death is ZORO's reaction. Obviously, he cries and is upset, but looking deeper with the knowledge of what happened to his parents, this kid is clearly traumatized. He suffered 3 Mater's death in his life in what we can assume is a very short amount of time. He's 11 in the flashback with Kuina. Even if his parents passed a year or 2 beforehand, even 3 years, that is still a close time period in his short life to lose so much. This is logically where the seed of his fear starts, but I don't want to get ahead of myself. Let's jump forward a bit. Picture this. You're tied up on a cross in the middle of a marine base, and the next thing you know, a weird kid wearing sandals shows up and asks you, a well-known bounty hunter, to be his crewmate. You pass him off, and he decides he's going to get your swords back in exchange for your companionship. Then, surprisingly, he's there, 3 swords in hand, and stretching, his limbs like rubber, while beating the ever-loving Brown out of the Marines. Your first thought would be, who the hell is this guy? And your second thought would be, how in the world is he stretching? So what do? Well, you join him. You and that stretchy-armed man set out to sea. Let's move on to the first fight ZORO really has in the series, Kabaji. Now, I won't lie. Compared to the later fights in the series, ZORO basically hands Kabaji his own ass on a silver platter. It isn't until Surf Village we see ZORO struggle with an enemy, or enemies, Sham and Bochi. I'm not going to say that he beat the brakes off of him, but they did give him a run for his money for a moment. Think about it. Here you are, fresh off your first major victory in Orangetown. Then bam, 2 dudes with a combined bounty of 7 million start pushing you back, more so than you thought they would. That's when a familiar feeling starts welling up in you. So you push yourself through, you push yourself harder and win the fight. Moving past Surf Village, we get to the next major loss of ZORO's life. The fight against Mihawk at Baradier. To say Mihawk utterly destroyed ZORO's ability and pride is putting it lightly. Using the smallest knife we've seen in the series so far, he made a mockery of ZORO's abilities, showing ZORO just how far he has to go in the process. Imagine this. You're setting sail with your captain, gathering crew members, you've had a few tough fights, but you've come out every time on top. Then you see it, your goal is right in front of you, and you realize just how large of an ambition it is, just how much you have to work to do it. It seems impossible. You've lost to someone you can't even see because they are so far ahead of you. You are at a loss. And loss. That's what ZORO fears most in the entire world. Loss of found family, loss of pride, and loss of ambition. With that established, let me show you exactly how it drives him. Luckily, I won't go as long-winded with this half of the video because there are really only 2 examples I need to explain to you how it drives him. While making our way through Arlong Park, Alabasta, Skypiea, and Innie's Lobby, we see minor examples of his drives, such as scenes of Zoro reaching new heights by overcoming Hachi, learning new techniques while fighting Mr. One, saving Chopper from Ohm and Skypiea, and all of these can tie back to those 3 types of lost Zoro fears. But the first major example we need to talk about happens on Thriller Bark. I think we all know what's next. There you are, exhausted, after fighting all night long against waves of zombies, ghosts, and a warlord straight from a nightmare. The man you respect the most, your captain, is exhausted beyond belief. Your crew's exhausted beyond belief, and now here stands another warlord, Bartholomew Kuma. You and your crew attack him, but your attacks refuse to penetrate. It's like he's a cyborg, like your shipwright. Then he unleashes an attack that knocks out everyone. Even you are knocked down. You watch as he reaches for your captain, and you feel it, the loss creeping up inside you. You can't let that happen. Not again. So you offer the tyrant your head instead. The cook tries to offer his, but you knock him out. You can't change your mind. Your fear of losing your family again has settled it for you. You'd sacrifice it all so you don't have to feel that again, and so they don't have to feel that. And then nothing happened. Zoro was ready to lay his life on the line. No, his ambitions. His and Kuina's dream on the line to protect his Nakama and to save them from feeling that loss. After all of that, we arrive on Sabaody, and once again, by the hands of Bartholomew Kuma, Zoro faces loss. His crew is gone, possibly dead, and he's on a strange island. At first, he assumes everything will be fine. He will just meet the crew back at the Sunny in 3 days. He runs into Perona and attempts to leave. Then the man who lives on this island returns. Dracule Mihawk. What is it that Mihawk tells Zoro right as he arrives? Straw Hat Luffy has lost his brother in the War of the Best. Ace is dead. Luffy suffered the greatest loss possible, and Zoro wasn't there to stop it. He wasn't there to help Luffy, and Luffy suffered because of it. Because of loss. This drives Zoro to beg on hand and knee for Mihawk to train him. In the post-time skip, I feel Zoro continues to be driven by this fear, but he's more subtle about it. We all know how stoic he got in those 2 years, and I believe he is hiding his fear in a way that it only cracks through on occasion, like on Punk Hazard when he reminds Luffy that they're in the new world now and that he cannot lose. In all honesty, I think by the time they hit the new world, Zoro had learned to live with his fear, to accept it, but at the same time he has become more reckless when it comes to protecting his crew. He doesn't fear death, he only fears his crew feeling loss, the loss he has known his whole life. Whoa! This turned out way longer than I expected it would. This is my first long-form video, so if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching. Here's a reminder to go check out Melon Tree's video in the description, and don't forget to subscribe to The Last Arc, and I'll see you in the next one, guys. Psst. Also, I have a TikTok that you can go follow me on. It's at Straw Hat Lucas with an underscore between straw and hat. Let's go.